Okay, well, I've got 302. I think we'll get started. Looks like we do have a nice group in attendance, so thank you all for attending. Again, you're part of the AMC session hosted by Randy and Carl, and I won't formally introduce you, but I'll allow you to introduce yourselves. Randy, if you want to start, please introduce yourself.
Okay, well, Carl, would you like me to introduce myself first and then turn it over to you and then come back to me? What do you want to do?
That would be great.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce myself, Randy Cohn at Salisbury University. I'm in the department of, it just split, the math and computer science departments just split from each other. So I'm now in the Department of Mathematical Sciences at Salisbury University. But prior to this, I was at the Virginia Military Institute. At both of these two institutions, we've hosted large-scale AMC events, mostly centered around the AMC 8, but we have done AMC 10, 12 also. I think that's enough for now. Carl?
Hi, everybody. My name is Carl Yerger. I'm the chair of the Math and Computer Science Department. We're still a joint department at Davidson College. I've been there 11 years. For the purposes of this meeting, I'm one of the coordinators of the Charlotte Math Club, which is a local community-based organization that serves students in the Charlotte area. And I am one of the co-editors in chief of the AMC 1012. And I look forward to chatting with everyone today. And I'll turn it back over to Randy.
Okay, so I'm going to share something now. It's going to be a quick video, not going to last really long. But it gives a sense of why I got involved with this. Now, I'll just play the video, and hopefully it will come through okay for you. It's not real long, but this is what the AMC really means to me, what and why I got involved. So let me share this out, and I will play it. All right. Oh, did I not share that out? I think I did. Let me go back. Yes. So did you see the video okay, Carl? Okay. So this, the video was of the beginning, just before the test happened. It was at the beginning of one of our hostings of the AMC 8. And so when all the kids and the students and the chaperones and the teachers, the administrators came in, I stopped them at the door and I made them practice a do-si-do, whatever that was. Some kids knew what it was and some kids didn't. So they all were do-si-doing and they all got practice, but they weren't sure why. It was just sort of a fun thing to do. But when the music started and I got everybody up, we had 500 kids dancing around and doing do-si-do, blowing off steam. They're all nervous to take this big exam that the teachers have talked about, we've talked about. And so the point really is to make and attach a lot of fun to the whole day's events. And they're all centered around math and science. So I'll talk more about that and the schedule of the day for our events. Now, the video was at VMI, and we were able to host up to 800 kids and teachers there, and that we had a large conference center. Here at SU, we can host about 250 until we move down to the convention center as part of the, maybe in the future. But the strategy has been something that I learned really early on in my life. I went to public school in Lexington, Kentucky, and I got one of the greatest public educations I think I could have gotten. And there's a big reason for that. And the big reason was that University of Kentucky took a very active role in the learning community and the school systems in and around Lexington, Kentucky. I'm eternally grateful to University of Kentucky for doing that, because my education took off. When I started going to some of the programs that they offered to public school kids like me, I went from somebody who just was sort of on the sidelines and floundering about to starting to make some real significant academic progress. And I think that's part of the role, at least in my little unilateral view of the world. That's part of our responsibility in higher education as professors and as educators, is to reach out to our colleagues in K through 12, to reach out to the community members throughout the public school and homeschooling. So I remembered that. I remembered that my whole life, the University of Kentucky. And when I became a professor myself, I immediately wanted to start to give back to the local communities, whether that was in Virginia or here now in Maryland. So I'm going to share some slides. I'm not going to beat you to death with some slides. I'm going to go through a little bit and talk about what my approach has been, a little bit about the AMC. But please realize, as I'm talking, I'm still really stuck in a pre-pandemic mentality about everything that I'm talking about. Now, Carl and Jen are much more in tune with how things really are running now, this year, last year, and maybe in the near future. So as I'm talking, this is all about in-person kinds of things, and I'm desperately ignorant about what can be done now in today's world. And I'm going to relinquish my any time that I have remaining to Carl to talk about modern versions of this. So let me share out now just a few slides real quick. Let's see. Hopefully this will come across. And I will present. And let me check on my screen to see. I can see that. Can you see it, Carl? Okay, cool. So there's a huge abstract in this that I'm not going to expect anybody to read through. I'm going to talk over this. This was really, the abstract was more preparation for me. So here's how we're going to organize things. We've already had an introduction. I'm going to talk a little bit. Carl's going to talk a little bit, and then we're going to jump into Q&A. So what are the AMC? The MAA characterizes this really nicely on their AMC site. And it really falls right in line with what I was talking about earlier with the mission of the AMC and really the MAA. Is to be those leading lights, to be that leading light for our communities, to be the vetted source for good educational practices, mathematics, and in this case, the AMC, an organized contest around mathematics. And I really believe that in this, when we're talking about the AMC, at least when I'm talking about the AMC, I'm not just thinking about it as a talent filter. When I send out invitation letters and go to schools around the region, I'm not interested in so much them just sending their best kids or their top students. I want anybody, any student that's even has the most marginal interest in mathematics or science to participate. So we send out very general invitation letters, because I was one of those kids that was just floundering right on the edge of a C grades until I started participating in things like this. And then my life changed, and it changed from then to now. I've got some little captions here in the bottom right. There, it's kind of like a Mystery Science Theater commentary. So what do they look like? What do these tests look like? Now, this is done. This is a last minute, within just a few minutes ago, trying to get a Google slide version of a PowerPoint slide because the technology wasn't working out. So some of these things are cut off a little bit. Like we can see the AMC8, the American Mathematics Competition for 8th graders. This is the first question on the 2006 AMC8. So designed for 8th graders, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Takes place 25 questions over 40 minutes. There's the first question. Not a bad question. When we start to dig in, we get to maybe question number 23, which is this last question from the same exam. Question number 23. They are more significant. They take some thinking. They take some reasoning. They oftentimes take genuine mathematics skill. Mostly they're about reasoning, though, which is pretty cool with AMC8. AMC 10-12, there's a 10 for 10th graders, really 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, mostly 9th and 10th graders. They are a little bit harder, and they look more mathematical. So from the same year, we have 40 questions over a longer period of time, same year, but the first question on the AMC 10, that's what it looks like. For the 12th grade test for 11th and 12th graders, same amount of time, same number of questions, a little bit different on the scoring. We have some more significant kind of questions. These are just fun and some of them quite challenging questions for the 12th grade test, especially near the end. Okay, so there's my commentary from my little side commenters. Let's see. What is an AMC event day? So for us, that means that we organize, both at VMI and now at Salisbury University, we organize a whole day. And I'm sorry that that overlapped. I didn't mean for that to. The first line of that is about a half hour where we have arrival of schools and they sit, because this is going to be a huge venue. Even here at SU, setting up for 250 kids and 50 teachers, it really takes some management. So we have a lot of volunteers. I now have a co-director for this program. We test, and there's time clearly for a 40-minute test. That's not 40 minutes. We need to make sure everybody, all the students are filling in all the forms correctly. But while that's going on, we grab all of the teachers and we take them to the other side of campus, and we have a teacher workshop given by both our mathematics faculty as well as our math education faculty. Then everybody comes back together and we bring them over to the dining hall, and the kids love to go to the dining hall. 8th graders love, 6th, 7th, 8th graders love to go to the dining hall and eat. They can run around and get as much ice cream as they want. And that's always very popular. We then move back to a big hall where we get greetings from the people who pay for this, the dean. We've invited the MAA. Jen's been to see us and graciously spoke to a crowd of students. And then we have a big fun math talk. And that happens. And we get a little bit of recruitment right at the end. We do some campus tours. For 8th graders, not so much recruitment, more about just continuing the fun of the day. And let's see, why did we get involved in this? I think that's next. I've already explained that, at least from my vantage point, why I got involved in the AMC. We're going to ask Carl here in just a second. That, again, is just a reinforcement. That picture is a reinforcement of why I got involved. to see that many kids get jazzed up about math and science, to get their teachers here taking the exam at the same time. And they struggle with it for the full amount of time, most of the time too. It's a riot. It's a lot of fun. So the teachers that don't go to the workshop can hang around and take the exam in a separate area, separate from the kids. So that's a lot of fun as well. Eventually, maybe if we have time, I would like to talk a little bit about the interest in creating an AMC 5. We've already done this some. We've gotten some real interest in this by getting some approval from the AMC folks a while ago, getting the templates, and then running a pilot at Salisbury University for an AMC 5, and it was really successful. Kids had a lot of fun. The teachers had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun in general. So let me take this down. I did want to say thanks before I'm sure I'm going to forget it later. So thank you, Carl, for everything that you do for the AMC and have done. And I would anticipate you continue to do. Thank you, Jen, for all that you do, as well as thank you for organizing this session and inviting me. Now, there's one last thing I'm going to say as I move off of this screen, stop sharing, and that's that the model that I have chosen for here and at VMI, I wanted to make this free for every student that wanted to participate. So it was not a hard sell. At VMI, it was not a hard sell here. Salisbury University is part of the University System of Maryland. It was not a hard sell to say, okay, provost, okay, dean, okay, department chair, fork over the money for us to do this outreach because it is significant in impact. And so we pay for their lunch, we pay for the tests, we pay for all the materials that we have, pens and papers. Everything that we have, we pay for. The only thing that we ask the schools to do is to pay for their own transportation, get here, and to find, of course, they have to pay for substitute teachers in some cases as well. But it has never been a hard sell to get the universities to pay for this significant outreach project. And it's really easy to get that sold if there's a recruitment component built in, namely what I said at the end of that schedule, where we had campus tours, where for 10th and 12th graders, we do bring in somebody from admissions to give just a little 5-minute talk. So I'm done. I'm happy to take any questions anytime, but I'm more excited about what we're going to hear from Carl. Turn it over to Carl.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Randy, for a great kickoff here. I'm going to try to share my screen here via a PDF here. So let's see. Okay, can people see my screen? Is that good? Okay, I see. Good. All right. So thanks again for everyone for coming. My name's Carl Yerger. I'm at Davidson College. And so let's see here. So I just want to give, before I get into the nuts and bolts about what we do at Davidson, I just wanted to give a sense of our context at Davidson. So Davidson is a private liberal arts college around 20 miles north of Charlotte, North Carolina. And kind of the way that we motivate this contest and hosting this contest is primarily through the Charlotte Math Club. And that's been an organization that's been supported by faculty members both at Davidson and at UNC Charlotte, amongst other folks. And we support mathematically curious students in the Charlotte region. And that's kind of how this started. And then also kind of wearing a different hat, I'm also involved in the test creation process. So I'm a co-editor-in-chief of the AMC 12 exam. And I've been involved in this for maybe around 8 or 9 years now on the test creation process. So let's talk first about what happens pre-pandemic. There were a lot of changes last year in terms of the pandemic, but I think it's important to at least talk about what we've done, because it's very different than what Randy's done. And I think that both of these models can work really well depending upon your local context. So first, we would host just the B version of the exam. So the culture around us in the Charlotte area is that many schools host an A version of the exam, but they don't host both. And so offering the B version of the exam serves a few purposes. It helps some students who want to take the exam again. It might serve some homeschool students or students who weren't able for whatever reason to not make that A test date. And so we've offered that as an option for local students at no cost around Davidson College. And we get around, we used to get around 20 or 30 students. It really depends upon what other schools are doing, and the testing that's been done at some local schools has been sporadic. Sometimes there are teachers that are really excited about it, and then the following year that teacher leaves, or there's a cut in funding at that high school, and so we get more students that way. So it really just depends. Right, so I said that many local schools only offer the A test date. Now, instead of having it the whole day, we've gone with an after-school model. So we tend to host this between 4 to 6 p.m. so that students or parents can then take their students from school or right when they get home to come to Davidson for a couple hours. This is also a bit more feasible on our end because we use almost all of our classrooms, but our end of the day is around 4 o'clock. So it's a lot easier for us to get a couple classrooms at that time during the day. We've had some guest Davidson student speakers. We've had some college-related speakers, and that's varied from year to year based on availability. But one thing that I will say is that students really want to take the test. And I think it was very wise for Randy to have them do the test first, because they really want to take the test. And so there's not a huge bit of attention for those students. You know, they're ready to take the test. And it's always important to offer clear directions. Every college campus is a new place for many folks, and trying to find that room, you know, we normally had a volunteer or a couple signs up to kind of help students and their parents go into the right place. Let's see here. So we were given some funding from Davidson to assist with contests and food, so some snacks, and we're really grateful for that. Sometimes, though, people say they're going to come and they don't. And so we've thought about the idea of some sort of deposit, not to make a financial burden, but just kind of to help people make a commitment that, hey, we're going to come and participate in this event. And another thing, just like Randy said, that this is a way to connect with teachers, it's also a way to connect with parents. So there might be one of us kind of doing the proctoring in the room, and another one of us might be talking to parents about different local math opportunities, summer math programs, trying to connect students and parents with some other resources. And that's sort of an unintended or intended external benefit of hosting this contest. Getting the word out. So the Charlotte Math Club has a newsletter and a mailing list, and those emails tend to travel beyond their original destination. So sometimes I get emails from parents that are forwarded, like, well, how did it get there? But somehow there are these networks of parents and other groups, and it's cool to see how that goes. We do also reach out to administrators in nearby private schools and the public school system, and it's mixed. So sometimes we get a lot of takers. Some schools do it on their own. Some are really excited to have us assist. So cast a wide net and kind of see where that goes. And it's a great opportunity for departmental colleagues to get involved. Some of them may have other commitments. So being able to get involved in a service activity during the workday is a really great feature of this. If your department or has promotional materials, have them available for students. And admissions, we've had admissions at times donate pens or folders or other sort of materials. So we've done that. And the way that we've done signups, we don't have 800 students. So we've just used Google Forms, and that's worked really well for us to have the students sign up that way via Google Forms so that we have their information. Okay, so what did we do last year? So many things have changed, both with AMC testing, with online versions of the test being hosted through Art of Problem Solving, and also college procedures, right? Davidson, among other places, are not too keen about people outside the Davidson community coming on campus the way that they may have been in previous years. So how did we manage that? Well, we decided to offer both the A and the B exams online via Zoom. So we wanted to offer both because we heard that there were some schools that weren't offering the AMC exam at all. And we knew of students who were excited about taking the exam, both in the Charlotte area and in other parts of the country where some schools just weren't doing it or weren't comfortable really doing any sort of external activities. They were on emergency mode, and really just being able to have standard instruction was the number one and possibly only priority. So we also work with a parent organization at one public school to support the testing for the entire school. So the school wasn't willing to do it, but there was a parent-teacher organization that paid for the tests for all of the students at that school. And that worked out really great, I think, for everyone. And we had around 80 or so students in both of the sessions, some of which were from the Charlotte area and some of which were very, very grateful students and parents who couldn't find a test site anywhere else. And the listings on the AMC website help those students find us. So what's going to happen in the future? This is an interesting question. So perhaps an online option will be helpful, and perhaps that we'll continue this indefinitely in the future for students who, for whatever reason, might not be able to travel to Davidson. Perhaps their parent isn't able to help get them there, or there might be other reasons. So having a fully online option may be really beneficial for those students. There's also the thought of students taking the exam kind of in person, where the exam is done on their personal laptop or on their phone, but they're then still physically proctored by a person either at their school or presumably at Davidson if we were doing that hosting. And then all we would need is guest Wi-Fi. That's way easier than having external people touch our college computers, which always involves a lot of paperwork. So we try to avoid that. Another thing that you might consider, and we might consider, is instead of having just that information session where the session where the test is actually being administered, perhaps have an information session about the test, where maybe then you could have someone from the college talk about their research, or someone from admissions talk about the college and the institution's offerings. And even if, say, right, some of the problems are very challenging, but even beyond the test, they can be really used as conversation starters for other outreach initiatives, or even college problem solving groups, right? So some of those later AMC questions would be completely fair game for a problem solving group at your college or university. And we mentioned the AMC website. So here are just some helpful hints, and this is my last slide. And then I know Randy and I would be more than happy to answer any questions or hear your thoughts about your experiences. So first is to plan early. So it's a bit cheaper to purchase early bird registration for the exams themselves. And if you're worried about, well, I don't know how many students will attend, you can actually buy additional test bundles or virtual bundles. They used to be physical bundles that you'd get sent, but now they're sort of groups of 10 in registration codes if more students are interested. And as Randy said, sort of ask around for funding as necessary. We funded this primarily with support from Davidson College and donations from parents, but there might be other sources of funding too. Right, this might be a way to help with communication. You might be able to partner with your college's math club or another organization, or maybe there are work-study students in your department, and this might be an opportunity for them to have a job. If you can, if something will go wrong, it might. So try to reserve your classroom for longer than you think you need. You might have a conversation with a parent that goes over. You also might have a professor whose class doesn't end when it's supposed to and goes over by a few minutes. And you want to give yourself a little bit of a buffer room if you can. And have fun. So I really love working on these problems. This was really one of the things that got me excited about mathematics as a young person, and I'm really honored to be able to play a role in supporting this exam now as a college faculty member. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Thanks again for listening, and we're really excited to hear your questions. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Randy and Carl. I really appreciate you guys speaking to this. You know, when you say the word competitions, a lot of folks think, oh, it's not fair, or it's not a great way to evaluate your aptitude in math. But, you know, for me, it can be a fun AMC day. It can be a day to introduce students to colleges and universities. We do, as we have Jerry and Carl, who have been creating the problems and supporting the creation of the actual competition for the 10-12 here with us today. The problems that we create really are analytical. And we do hope they're the type of problems that you kind of walk away with thinking, God, I think I want to go back to problem 5 one more time, because I've thought of another way to kind of approach it and things like that. I think a great benchmark would be get 5 correct. Try 10 at any given time. And so we really, really appreciate what you're doing for your community and your support of our program, because I think it's a great program. I love it. I'm passionate about it. So thank you. And thank you for sharing your time. We had one question in the chat, but it looks like Nicole responded to that. Are there any other questions that folks would like about either hosting an AMC day at your school, about taking the AMC, or anything about their universities that they attend and that Carl and Randy are a part of? Any questions that anyone has?
I have a question, Jen.
Sure.
Is our contact information, our email addresses available, at least on the program? Is it alongside our names? I don't remember seeing it there.
I don't know.
Not, it would be good if we could get that out there. I'll type mine in if anybody has any questions they'd like to get in touch with me. The other thing I'd like to say is that being somewhat centrally located in the Mid-Atlantic region, Jen, you've come to one of our AMC 8 event days. Any faculty member who's interested in participating and just observing, watching us, hanging out with us for that day, we do this on the day of the AMC 8 when it comes up. So keep that in mind if you're here in the session and you're interested in your local or just regional. Come and hang out with us. It really is an open day of just fun, relishing the time together as colleagues, as educators, as interested souls and curious souls. So come and hang out with us.
Great. I'm looking, there's a question from Ben. I'm interested in ways of debriefing the AMC creatively. He's given it at his school for 30 years. Ben, I'm going to pose the question to Carl and Randy. Then I'm also going to ask you to join us at 4 o'clock, because we're going to be meeting with some of our SLIFE teachers that are also some award-winning teachers that have been giving the AMC for years as well. But Carl and Randy, any thoughts there?
I'll take a shot at that. So one thing that might be cool that you could do, and our Art of Problem Solving does this sort of, is you could have the class kind of work collaboratively on a set of solutions. So you could have think of this as sort of a group activity where maybe there's a wiki that you could post online somewhere, and the students can kind of fill in. Or maybe you do this in person. I don't know, Ben, your context or what the context will be in the future years. But maybe there's a way that you could kind of have the students see what they could work together on to try to write up some really well-crafted solutions, right? So the AMC doesn't necessarily at the 10-12 level, reward this sort of creative writing skills. That happens in other contests and at the USAMO and other places. But it would be cool to see kind of what the collective of your class might be able to come up with before solutions come out. And if even after solutions come out, it might be cool then if there were a couple problems that you weren't able to solve, even as a group, that you could use that as a guide for, say, a class project, or maybe some activity to do kind of later in the academic year, where you kind of take those problems and use that as a starting point for some further discussion.
Rand, any thoughts on that?
So that's a really great question. I'm trying to put it in the context of the way that we've organized things. We have here in Salisbury, we have schools coming from 3 hours away, and at VMI we were having schools coming from 6 hours away. So for them to make an additional trip is not really feasible. But when we're talking now in terms of virtualization of lots of different communication, it might be a really neat thing to think about, having a follow-up session, I think, as Ben is indicating, hosted by us, the original hosting university or college. And I don't know, that sounds really appealing in a way to continue the relationship between us and the regional school systems, and we don't have to worry about the traveling. I think that's a great idea, Ben, and I'm going to put that on my to-do list for the next time we host it. What a neat thing to think about. I see Maria has a question also. When you have to start planning for such a day, how early is appropriate? I'm going to go ahead and grab that one and then turn it back over to Carl. The reason why I'm gravitating toward that question is that it does take a lot of planning and a lot of foresight, because the schools, when we host an event day like what we have done here at VMI, we want them to be here for the whole day, the whole school day. And that requires permission slips. It requires schools organize transportation, substitute teachers. So we send out invitation letters we blanket the region from Delaware to Virginia to Maryland. We blanket the region with lots of communication, whether that's formal invitation letters, but we do it starting about 3 months in advance. Especially for the schools that we know are historically participating in these kinds of things. Then we cover an even wider area. We make sure that we have a deadline for registration for the schools about 4 to 6 weeks in advance of our date, the date of the AMC 8. Now, I'll qualify that, and then I'll turn it over to Carl. When I say register, we really just ask the schools to send us a number of students that are guaranteed to show. We don't ask for all of their contact information or that kind of information. It's just not really appropriate for us to have anyway. So we ask for numbers, and we want strict numbers, and we keep those very strict. There's another number that we keep really strict beyond the registration, and that's the number of chaperones per 10 students. We require for our event days that every 10 students that a school brings, they have to bring 2 chaperones, and they need to be on hand throughout the day. It's because it's a lot of students. When we have 250 here, 800 at VMI, that's a lot of students to manage in one direction at one time. And so we need lots of hands on deck. So lots of preparation, help in organization is crucial. I hope that helps answer a little bit of Maria's question. Carl?
Great. Yeah, Randy, I think all of that was excellent. I'll just add a couple small things. So there may be some funding processes at your institution or nearby that have very different timelines than the timeline you actually need to register. So be aware of those, and that might have to happen way in the future, or not, right? That very much depends. And also the idea of reserving space. So, we've had end of the year graduation math major events where we get our departmental coordinator to reserve the room a year in advance, because there are certain cool rooms on campus that you can get, but you have to be really early about it. So those sort of things, I think, are the things to kind of start thinking about earlier. The other stuff, maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and trying to set a commitment date for schools in terms of having a number of students who plan to attend. I think that's the crucial number, because you have to order the tests so many days in advance, and that's kind of the hinge point there. Another thing just to consider, the first time it might take longer, but try to create processes and try to use forms that you can then use over and over again, so that in future years you hopefully can rely on those Google Forms where you just change the date, and you have people at your institution to know, oh, I have to reserve this room. But that first year, things may take a bit longer.
Great, thank you both. Any other questions to pose to the group? Okay, I'll ask a quick question, and then we'll try to end about 3:50, just to give some time to transition to the next session. Do you have any anecdotes on how this has impacted the students? Do you have any students that you've met at your university that said, I met you, you probably don't remember, but you administered the competition? Anything to where, or even just at the end of the day, the student said, this was great. Any anecdotes on just the impact that you think it's had on some of the younger students?
So I've had that experience, multiple experiences of that sort, both at my last institution here, at VMI here, where students will come up and say, hey, I know you. I was at the math exam, the AMC 8. But just as endearing, and you'll have to forgive my sentimentality here, we do get lots of cards after the fact. There's a lot of press coverage too. We've had TV stations come in, and then we get a lot of nice positive press. But some of the most endearing are the notes that the kids write on their scratch paper when they're working on their exam. They have it for a little while in advance. They have it for a while after the test is over, and they write the nicest notes. This is completely impromptu by the kids themselves saying, thank you. And I'm not sure I was in a space when I was an 8th grader or a 10th grader to be thinking that gratefully about the teachers and the professors that were around me. So we get some really nice, lots of feedback that really is meaningful on a personal level. So I'll turn it over to Carl.
Okay, thanks. So I have a couple sort of anecdotes that come to mind, and they're partially related to the AMC, and they're partially a little bit broader, just from my interactions. And the first thing is that we've had some students that have come to us to even get help for being proctors for the AIME and for the USAMO, because there's no one at their high school that's willing to proctor for them. And so, us hosting this contest, among other things that we do, is one way to say, well, the mathematical community really does care about us. Maybe my high school is interested in other activities, but the mathematical community cares for us. And I think that the AMC is one way that the mathematical community helps to show students about what math can be beyond kind of the typical high school coursework, that there are kind of windows into areas of math for further exploration. And I think that's really cool. The second anecdote is more about the Charlotte Math Club, but it's very related. All these activities kind of relate, is that for people who know me, I play a lot of tennis. And so I was talking to this player that I was playing with, And I mentioned about the Charlotte Math Club, and so, oh yeah, I know those guys. They do really great stuff, and completely unsolicited, that there was this sort of word of mouth that among the community where this person lives, that they've heard about us, and we do zero promotion. We found that a lot of our students sort of come from word of mouth, and we have a website, and students sort of find their way. But knowing that there are these pockets where the work that we do really does matter is really gratifying.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. This is, the AMC sessions are brand new to Math Fest. And this conversation is exactly what I was envisioning, and impacting the students, hoping professors and universities find a way to reach out to their communities and share mathematics at all levels. Obviously, on the business side, great opportunity for exposure for the admissions office and for your departments on the business side. But on the community side, just a really great time to expose students to make math fun. James Tanton talks about the joy of math, and having an AMC day definitely represents the joy of math. So I appreciate you both. Like I said, we've been trying to end about 3:50 to give folks a few minutes, but I will ask if there's any other questions. Kayla, I'm so glad that your question was answered. And so if you still have questions, please feel free to visit our website. Are there any other questions? If not, we will slowly close out the group. Thank you, Jerry, who's in attendance. I really appreciate his support. Huge contributor for years to the 1012. So thank you, Jerry, for being here. And thank you both again. Building a math day is so important. I agree. Yeah. Thank you, Maria, for being here. Any closing thoughts? Any final comments?
If you've got more questions, our contact information is there in the chat. Don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to brainstorm with you if you have any specific ideas that you want to kind of test out.
My last comment is in what we're seeing with the students really struggling through the pandemic with the educational processes, that I think the AMC 8s, the AMC 1012, maybe an AMC 5 may be part of that transition for some of these students into getting back up to speed in mathematics and science and education in general. So in terms of thinking about the future, thinking about the past, how can we do better for our communities that have struggled now for a couple of years? I think that we have a real possibility here with AMC tests.
Great. And we'll have to discuss the 5. I didn't lose that. Okay, well, thank you. If everyone is everyone available to join us at 4:00, we're hoping to create a robust discussion on best practices in teaching mathematics. Chuck Gardner will be leading that discussion, talking about some of our SLIFE winners and some of the things that they've done. So definitely hope to see everyone at 4:00 for that robust discussion. And thank you for supporting this discussion as well.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks.
Good to see you both.
You too.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.